Hello guys, so today I'll be showing you how I managed to pass the 50k phase 2 challenge. I already did the breakdown of passing phase 1. I think that's about 6 or 7 weeks ago. Here is the phase 1. I did the 8% target. After passing the phase 1, I headed to phase 2 and I've actively been doing breakdowns of the phase 2 progress. I think in the past 1 month or something, I've shown the account from 0 to all the trades that I've been taking in my previous YouTube videos. So I did manage to pass phase 2 just recently, I think last week, achieving the 5% target that is required and all other conditions, including the minimum trading days, which usually is 5. And as we speak, I got the live 50k funded account, which I'll also be sharing with you in a minute. Just for clarity, phase 1 took me about, I think, 2 months to pass, and this phase 2 has taken me about 5 weeks to pass. Simply because you can see my first trade was taken on March 21st, and I did pass this challenge on April 25th. As you can see, this is when I received the email. So that's just about 5 to 5.5 weeks of trading. Let's go straight to the account stats just to show you the trades that I took and how my trading curve looks like. For this account specifically, I was risking 0.8% per trade. Since I was in phase 2, I didn't want the risk of, doing higher percentages and then I end up losing the account at phase 2. So I was risking 0.8%, which is roughly $400 per trade, and my risk to reward was a 1:3, meaning if I'm risking 400, I was looking to make somewhere close to 1200. Also, I only risked 0.8% for the first few trades until my account was up, I think, about 3.6%. So when I was up 3.6%, I increased my risk to 1% for every trade that I was taking, because at this time I had a very nice buffer, and based on my win rate, I had the confidence that even if I take a few losses, it would be easy to recover and still pass. Also, let me just clarify a few things. If you look for the whole 5 weeks of trading, I only took about 7 trades. Now, of these 7 trades, you'll notice there is this trade on Euro USD here, and I don't trade Euro USD at all. Also, you'll notice I opened a 0.01 lot size. So this trade I just opened to keep my account active, simply because, as I'll show you in my trading curve, I had about a 3-week period where I did not have a single trade. And just to avoid the risk of the account inactivity, you have to always take a trade to make sure the account is active. That's why I opened this trade on Euro USD. So it's safe to say that I only took 6 trades using my strategy for the whole 5 weeks of trading. And here are all the trades, as you can see here. This was a 0.8% risk on card JPY by setup. I've already broken it down in the previous video. We had an AUD card loss again, 0.8% risk. We had another AUD card take profit with a 0.8% risk. Then at this point in time, my account was up about 3.64%. So when the account was up 3.6%, I decided to shift my risk to 1% risk per trade. That's why you'll realize if you look down here, I was using a lot size of 3.6 on AUD card. But now if you look, the most recent trades on AUD card, I was using a lot size of 4.5 because I had increased the risk. Same thing with card JPY, I was using a lot size of about 4, but on the last trade, I had increased my lot size to 5.1, again to cater for the 1% risk increase. So after shifting my risk to 1%, as you can see, I think I had a few struggles. I had, I think, a break-even trade here. I had a stop loss trade which took just about 1%, as you can see. Then the last trade went to my target. It was a card JPY bullish setup, and here is the trade. I won't go into doing the breakdown because they're just basically the same as all other breakdowns that I've done in my previous videos, but I'll just clarify that I was targeting a 1:3. However, I didn't close at a 1:3 because you can see I hit my profit at 113.826, and if I can just mark where 113.826, it's somewhere around here. So the reason why I closed my trade here prematurely is because I was only trying to achieve the 5% of the phase 2. So by the time my trade got to this point, I had already hit my 5%. So there was no need to try to hold the market to target the 1:3, even though the setup eventually did a 1:3. And that explains why this trade closed with $1,000, even though I was risking about 1%, because ideally it's supposed to close with about 1,500. And that's it. So the statistics will not be very accurate because, as you've already seen, I have a trade which wasn't valid that I took on Euro USD. So if you factor in that trade of Euro USD, automatically it reduces my risk to reward to about a 1:1.4. But again, that's not very accurate because it's not a trade that is in line with my strategy. So don't really focus much on the stats here, especially in terms of the risk to reward. However, the win rate and the loss rate is not very far from being accurate. Also, you can see I was more profitable than I was losing, because out of the 6 trades that I took, I had 1, 2, 3 take profits, and I had 1 loss, a second loss, and this was almost a break-even trade. So my profitability was also higher than my losing. Here's the most interesting thing about the account stats. If you look at the curve, only 2 pairs were traded during the whole time, AUD CAD and CAD JPY, and I did not have a single bit of drawdown on this account. Now that does not reflect anything meaningful, because it doesn't mean I can't go into drawdown. It just means the first trade that I took on this account never went into drawdown, and it did my 1:3 risk to reward. So on my first trade, I was already up about 2.3 or 2.4%, which you can also call that a coincidence, because there are also other times when I'll start a challenge and the first trade, or even the first 2 or 3 trades, will start by going into drawdown, going into the negative before I can recover. So coincidentally for this account, the first trade went into profit. I did a 1:3. From the 1:3, I took 1 loss here. I think this was on AUD CAD. After taking the loss on AUD CAD, I took another profit trade, I think on the same AUD CAD, if I can't remember. And now this is where I tell you I had a long period of not having any active trades. So from March 28th all the way to April 21st, which literally is close to 4 weeks if I'm not wrong, I did not have a single setup based on my strategy. I think that's probably the longest that I've gone without finding a setup for a while now. So for the whole month I was just looking at the markets, waiting for my confirmations to come into play, but I wasn't getting the right confluences, so I was not executing. So that took a lot of discipline, because you can easily be tempted to try and execute to just look like you're busy. But for me, I just had to wait. That's why you can see my curve was flat literally for about 4 weeks. Then in the last week, as you can see, I took another loss again. This was on AUD CAD. Then finally I got the CAD JPY bullish trade, which ended up doing a 1:3 and hitting my target of 5%. And basically that's how I passed the phase 2. And maybe just to clarify for those who usually ask, after passing your challenge, what happens next? What's the process of getting the funded account? So this process will vary for each prop firm, but because I'm dealing with FundedNext now, I'll just try to show you that once I pass the challenge, first of all, after passing the challenge, that trading day has to end before you can get the confirmation that you passed. So for example, in my time, I passed the challenge at about 7 or 8 p.m. if I'm not wrong, but I didn't get the confirmation until when that trading day was ending just at about midnight. So even if you pass your challenge early in the morning, you will have to wait for that day to end for you to get the verification. And this is how the email basically looks like now. Now the next thing after passing your phase 2, it will be moved to the inactive accounts. In fact, any challenge that you pass will be moved to the inactive accounts, because you're no longer trading those accounts, because you've already achieved the profit target that was required. So active accounts are the accounts that you are currently trading, whether a challenge or a live funded account. And then breached account is an account that you have lost because you somehow did not meet the rules that are required. So after passing the account, somewhere on your dashboard you will be given a button that tells you to verify your KYC, which is just basically know your customer. You'll find that button somewhere on your dashboard, and specifically for FundedNext, what they required for my KYC were just 2 things. The first thing was for me to, of course, fill in my official details. And after filling in my official details in terms of my names, etc., the document that was required was my identity card, which is basically your national ID photo, the front photo and the back photo. And after uploading the front photo and the back photo, the last thing that was required of me was just to take a selfie with my phone to verify that the image on the ID is the same person as the selfie that I will take, of which will be provided a link to do all that. So I'm just telling you this because the KYC for different prop firms is not always the same. There are prop firms which usually require you to go to the extent of verifying your proof of address, and this might require you to upload a bank statement. For me, I've been using my tax returns document to verify my proof of address, but for FundedNext they did not ask for that, so it also makes your KYC quite easy, and most people should be able to pass it without having any worries. After submitting your KYC documents, you'll also receive an email to just confirm to you that they have been received and they will be verified. So as you can see here, it says the KYC can take up to 48 hours, but I'll just tell you the exact time that my KYC took to be verified. So as you can see, it was submitted at about 12:01 a.m. and I did get the verification the next day at about 8:48 a.m. So if you do the math, that's literally about 8 to 9 hours that it took for the verification of the KYC. And once it's verified, you'll also get details to your live trading account, as you can see here. So basically that's it, and now I'll just show you the live account that I received. So I'll go back under the accounts and go to the active accounts. And here's the dashboard of the new 50K account that I received. So as you can see, the balance is 49,000 simply because I've taken one trade and this was not a valid trade. So I'll just explain to you why I took this trade. So when you get your FundedNext account, you are only eligible for a payout after 28 days if it's your first time. But once you've done the 28-day payout, the next payouts will happen every other 2 weeks. Now that being said, they start counting your 28 days eligible for a payout the first time that you take a trade on that account. So the way that I know my strategy, I can go for even 2 weeks sometimes without finding a trade. In fact, by the time I'm recording this, it's NFP week, and the whole of NFP week I don't usually trade. So assuming it takes me a whole 2 weeks to find my first trade, that's the day that they'll start counting my first 28 days before I can be eligible for a payout. That means even if I make any profit within that period, I can't withdraw until the 28 days end. So that being said, when I got my account, the first thing that I did, I just took a random trade. I don't even know the trade that I took. I just opened a random trade on CAD JPY with a 0.01 lot size just to make sure that my account is active and the 28 days countdown period starts. But long story short, this is my funded account now, and hopefully I'll be able to give you guys updates over time, and maybe the lesson that you guys can just learn from my funded account and the process of passing it from the challenge phase is that if you're trying to trade professionally, you have to realize that it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. So don't try to force to pass your challenge very fast. So long story short, I think it's taken me about 2.5 or close to 3 months just to pass both the phase 1 and the phase 2 and get to the funded stage. And this can happen sometimes. As I always say, the trading seasons are very different. You might have a time in the market where you get so many nice setups and you pass very fast. At the same time, you're going to have periods where it takes you longer to pass your challenge, especially if you're not getting the setups in the market. You see, you'd rather be patient and it takes you longer to pass your challenge, but eventually you get funded and do payouts than be in a hurry to be passing challenges every week. But after 3 months, you end up having so many challenges that you are blowing all of them and you never even passed a single one. So it's just a mindset thing. That's why you really need to learn to exercise patience, especially if you are trying to trade professionally and achieve some long-term consistency in the trading space in terms of managing your own accounts or managing funded accounts. Otherwise, there's nothing much left in this video. It was all about showing you the progress of the account and the statistics, and hopefully you pick 1 or 2 things from it that will also be beneficial in your trading journey. I'll keep you guys updated. Until next time, peace.